Hello, this is Chris. I'm Chris Roberts. I'm out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm taking a cross-country trip. I'm going to try to keep this short and as brief as possible, but it's kind of hard to not go on a bit because this is an introduction for my channel. I want to get in as much detail as I can, what it's about, and I'm just received a payout from my employer, amongst others, a voluntary payout if we want to accept. Some folks have been here a long time. Got a year plus salary plus 55 weeks of full medical. I'm single, don't have any kids. Decided later in life here and decided to take off and go around the country on my KLR650. I just got 2018. I had a 2013. I traded in on it, had it new, had it for about 5 years. And I did over 12,000 miles off-road on it in the state of Utah. Beautiful state to do off-road and adventure biking, and that's what I was into. Now I'm going around the country on it, and not the cruiser. I had opportunity to go on a cruiser, but I decided in the end to choose the KLR so I can do off-road, on-road, but I can find those campsites, dispersed campsites. But the trade-off is it's not so great on the highway. I've done some modifications to it best as I can to make it more comfortable for the highway. And I'm taking off from Salt Lake City, Utah, headed towards Toronto, Canada, up through Montreal, down to Key West, Florida. And I'm going to zigzag the way. Had to stop in Key West and figure out my move back west, kind of head back west and that area. And no time presence really, because I'm going to take about a year. I'm taking about a year off before I'm going to find another job somewhere, and just to do this trip. And I'm here in place Asante, County, outside of about 45 minutes outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've already recorded about 15 episodes. I just trying to figure out how to upload these to online, the trip. I'm new to this. They're recorded or downloaded on my Mac. It's just a matter of going through iMovie and uploading them online. The guy at the Apple Store did manage to upload. He arbitrarily picked one episode as an example, uploaded it online yesterday, so I got one uploaded. But I need to figure out here. Before I leave Minnesota, I want to have all of them uploaded and be set to go to where I can just upload 2 or 3 at a time, 1 to 3 at a time, maybe. Whenever I have Wi-Fi opportunity with my Mac along the way, that's the point. So I'm going to be placing the videos in sequence best as possible. From the first one I met, the first guy I met was a Diamond Fork guy by the name of Darm, and he was doing around a country trip like me. He was my first interview. A great guy, and on through up through my last episode, or the episode I'll have tonight, which I'm interviewing the guy here where I'm staying on his camp. His land is a 25-acre vineyard here in Minnesota. I just found it online, $10 a night. That's doable for me, and kind of a neat place. Something's going on right now. They're doing some landscaping here. This vineyard's been in his family for many generations. I'll let him give that story tonight when I interview him. So what I'm doing is I'm interviewing people along the way. It's about people that you meet along the way when you travel. And so the focus point is not about me so much what I'm doing, where I'm at. It's about the people I meet on the road. So it is an adventure to me. It's an adventure video about adventure riding. But the adventure to me is the other people, the people that you meet. The concept there, or what my notion is that people are the greatest adventure in life. There's no two people alike. Every person is a unique bundle of experiences, and those experiences determine how you dynamically interpret future experiences. So if you can see, for two people to be even remotely alike is just an impossibility. And so any effort to liken people is just one person to another, or a group of people, is just effort and futility. It's just not possible. So every person you meet in life is just a unique individual and incredible combination of experiences and outlooks, and just an adventure in themselves, whomever that may be. And so that's what the trip's about. Just going to be that's the adventure, meeting other folks. And so along the way, anybody I run to, it could be somebody in a parking lot, somebody at a convenience store, it could be somebody owner operator of a mom and pop's grill somewhere. Just like this guy here tonight, I'm going to interview him. Just people that I arbitrarily meet. Somebody I meet at my campsite when I'm camping out, like Darm, the first guy I interviewed, and is camping next to me there, and we had a great hike together and interviewed him. That was at Diamond Fork in Utah, where I was free camping, and then so I meet folks like that. And so I've already clocked in over 3,000 miles on this trip. I've gone from Salt Lake, across Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Iowa, and now I'm in Minnesota. So I've done a good portion of the trip. So I'm kind of uploading and not starting from day one. So I'm going to upload like 10 to 15 at once. And then from there on, I'll try to keep them in sequence. And then along the way, we'll just do 1 to 3 at a time and clear the slate. So I've still got some time left on my trip. I don't even think I'm 25% into it now. But we're going to, and that's what we're going to do. So you'll get a notification, you subscribe every time we got to upload. Next person I meet and interview, and we'll meet a lot of interesting folks all over the place. I mean, so it's kind of just related to your own experience. When you travel, you meet people all the time. There's just that energy, and you have that chat. So that's what the conversation is going to be like. I'll ask questions, maybe interject a little bit of commonality, but it's really going to be focused on the person, just like you would have a conversation with somebody that you meet on the road when you're traveling, camping, going on vacation, or anytime that you're out and about. And that's what the concept of the channel is about. So a little background about myself. Venturing. My other KLR, I did 12,000 miles off-road on it. 11 years I flew paragliders. I was a paragliding pilot. Flew over 800 times, where I flew off mountains with paragliders. Met a lot of people doing that, adventurers, a lot of venturing there. Then 5 years with the mountaineers, maybe 10 to 20 hikes a year, scrambles, climbs with those guys, learning the techniques of mountaineering or hiking and scrambling up these mountains. And the Cascades, great organization, and really a great introduction to mountains and mountaineering to me. I really loved it. It was a fabulous organization. And then I went from that to paragliding, and then paragliding to adventure biking. And prior to that, I was a sailing instructor at my university in Pensacola, Florida. 2 years, the student body instructor, sailing attendant, if you will. And prior to that, I did windsurfing, and then I spent over 3 years at sea in the Coast Guard. Milwaukee, a stop along the way here. Coast Guard Cutter Westwind out of Milwaukee was an icebreaker, the only polar breaker station in the Midwest, which was kind of unusual. It wasn't able, because it's classified as a polar breaker, it did not break ice on the Great Lakes unless it was in transit to get out of the Great Lakes or return to the Great Lakes. So we would spend 3 to 4 days to get into the Atlantic to go to the Arctic or the Antarctic. I made one more North Patrol on that ship up to the Arctic, and spent 3 to 4 days getting to the. We had an interruption in our time. An event occurred, but normally it would be 3 to 4 days, and to get to the Atlantic, and then you're on your way. So I went up to the Arctic. Was quite an adventure for a kid. I just turned 19 years old, and loved it. And then went back to there. We had a week off in Montreal. Just so happened, a full week off. It was one of those deals. The captain said, "Hey, I don't want to see you for a week. Just be back here in a week, and we're leaving." And it was fun. And so I will be stopping in Montreal, and then we'll work my way down from there. And then after the Ingham, I went to communication school, became a readyman, and I was on a Coast Guard cutter Ingham for 2.5 years, which now is a floating museum in Key West, Florida. It's the only ship in maritime, naval, Coast Guard history altogether to get 2 presidential citations, and had over 50 years of service. The Coast Guard walls on it, 912 people last count who lost their lives, men and women serving in the Coast Guard, and it's located on the quarterdeck. And the museum is a floating museum and a testament to the people who served in the Coast Guard, and then to the ship itself. And so it's a floating museum. And so I understand the last time I read it was the sixth most highest visited museum in the state of Florida, and it's located in Key West. So that's on the destination list. When I hit Key West, I'll take a tour of that, walk on tour. That'll be neat. And so right now I'm headed to tomorrow or the following day. Once I get my channel all up and running, I'm going to hit to Green Bay, Wisconsin, down to Milwaukee, then to Niagara Falls, and to Toronto, across to Montreal. And then I'm going to zigzag it all the way down to Key West, and no particular path. And then see what time of year it is when I get there, and then likely start heading out west. Keep it south. I imagine it'll be colder, and maybe head down to I want to like go to maybe Austin, and then head down to Mexico. I see some parts of Mexico. I got my passport, and so going to use it. And then wherever I end up, I'm not necessarily going to back in Salt Lake. Kind of let some of everything is up there. So right now I'm just basically living on the road. I'm not paying. I was renting a place, finished out my lease, and this is it. So my lease is my $10 a night, or free camping where I can, and that's what I'm doing. And that's my introduction. I'm doing a charity link on my site, and that's for Kids Connected. That's basically that's it's a site here in 1998. It's an organization. I searched all over for a site relevant. I wanted to do a charity. I have a feel-good thing going on, and for my trip, to feel like I'm doing something worthwhile or two to help other people. And so I just decided to publish a link to a relevant charity that hits home to me. They 1998 it was started as an organization that they really attune to or facilitate support by creation of support groups for kids amongst themselves, counseling and what have you, regarding a kid who or a child whose parents, one of his or her parents have recently been diagnosed with cancer or recently died of cancer. And it could be adolescent through teen age years, and the impact there is incredible on a kid. If you're losing your parents, or you have fear of losing your parents, you're a child, you really need to have understanding, counseling, a sense of community they establish with other children of the like is incredible. And so it creates an understanding, and really it's a dire need, and I don't think it's addressed. I was looking for something like this in particular, and I found this organization, one other organization in the United Kingdom that do it. There are probably likely other people, I just couldn't find them online, that do such. And I just think it's an incredible need. It hits home to me. When I was 6 years old, my mother went in the hospital for a back spasm. She came out and with a double mastectomy, and she was told that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was advised that she was terminal, and a double mastectomy would prolong her life. She had 4 kids, so she elected to have the double mastectomy. And she did live for 2 more years. And as a kid, my room was next to hers, so I figured it out. I was a smart kid, and I knew before long. And then you have all sorts of fear constructs built up inside of you, everything. You don't have an understanding as it wasn't addressed. My father, great guy, loved, worshiped the ground she walked on, everything, and cared for us, but just didn't have the ability, or it was too painful for him to communicate it to us, and nor she didn't address it with us either. So we just kind of dealt with it, and then when I was 8 years old, we went to say goodbye to her in the hospital, and they had given her a mass blood transfusion. A beautician came in, made her look great, and she was up and with it. I probably gave her some stimulant so she could be with it when she said goodbye to us. But as a kid, you see that, and you're like, wow, maybe there's some hope here. You don't really fully understand what's going on. But yet she died 2 days later, and then after that, it was like she never existed. My father just couldn't address it with us, and it's just something that was too painful for us to talk about. So it was almost like we pretended she never happened. This something that never happened. We never talked about it, never mentioned it. And so in my opinion, it grew up to be a great deal of there's dysfunctionality amongst us kids, and myself included, growing up. And as a result, and so I think there's a dire need for an organization such as this, and there's a dire need for kids who are, survivors figuratively and literally too. Survivors of just as much as a person who has a disease. Your life is severely impacted, and it's very traumatic, and it has an impact on you the rest of your life. It's painful losing a parent as an adult, but as a child, it's just your whole world's, the carpet's just ripped out from under you, and that's your whole sense of security. Your parents, and and if you don't have an understanding and it's not created, you could draw up all sorts of perceptions and draw all sorts of felonious conclusions and about what's happening or what's occurring, and you might have all your friends had two parents, you got one. You feel that kind of insecurity, or so impact to your esteem, all sorts of things, and it's not something that you ever get over unless